Hey guys, August 20th, 2026 here with your after hours recap. So today, like yesterday, it felt a little bit of the same. Metals continue to perform well, in particular gold. Crypto goes for a really nice day two. Obviously, we had a big pickup in volume yesterday, followed up by another big pickup in volume today. And the important part is back through the 200 simple moving average. So what starts off as a 4B setup just a couple of days ago, with a little bit of luck, you get in at the right time. I bought some IBIT. By the end of the week, it's looking pretty damn phenomenal. Now you're getting a little bit stretched here, but you probably can go further. And then, a little bit of consolidation, and we'll see what an IBIT, and Ethereum wants to do from there. But really nice action in the crypto space. You probably haven't heard that in a really long time. So we're back, hopefully, at least giving us a new theme to potentially trade. But on the flip side of that coin, you're losing what feels like some of the AI names. Now, I look at a name like MRVL and I say to myself, this is acting well within that quote-unquote semiconductor AI trade. One of the few semiconductors back above the 50-day. On the opposite side of that, for the memory stocks, Micron trying to close and holding above the 50 simple moving average today. A really nice close. I thought maybe against the 50 simple moving average, this was going to potentially start to roll, and partially because the Q's very weak over the last handful of sessions. Now, you're right back. Yes, I know you're underneath the 50, but you're right back to that follow-through day low. And one of the things that, you kind of heard me say as you got back up above the 50 is, just because we've gotten a follow-through day does not mean it's going to look like April 8th, April 9th, and all through April and May. And part of the reason is your semiconductor group, your SMH, a very big and important group, is below the 50-day. When you had gotten your follow-through day back here, when you got your follow-through day on the 8th, on the 9th, semiconductors were at a new all-time high. So that's a bit different. What you have this time is you've got gold acting really well, getting back above the 200, but you have names like NEM absolutely pressing here. Now, is this where I show up and buy new merchandise? Absolutely not. 7.5 times its ATR from the 50? No way. Is that where I'm showing up to buy any new merchandise? But it's acting well. You've got crude oil stocks. Today, it was the first time where they started to finally come under some pressure, but they earned it. They earned a little bit of an intraday sell-off, but you're still above a rising 5-day. You're still above a rising 10 and 20. And, you kind of look at USO, still hanging in there, still green, building out a base. The XLE's at an all-time high. So, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it if the energy stocks paused again for another day. Meanwhile, your mega caps continue to do, pretty much nothing, right? Microsoft, not much. And this is, again, earned a little bit of a breather. You make a really big move off these lows, 45%. A little bit of digestion is a good thing, right? You saw some weakness in MDB today. That's not a terrible thing after a 60% rally off the lows. A 10% pullback, not a big deal. But some of the cybersecurity stocks, CrowdStrike, coming under some continued pressure underneath the 50-day. We'll see kind of how, this lands over the coming sessions, but ultimately not that pretty. You even had the quote-unquote big EP yesterday with Moderna. Well, pretty big down day today. So, 24% unwind off of that after hour, or from yesterday's close, and then from the after hours high, about a 30-something% unwind from there. So pretty, not really. Of course, that plagued some of the sentiment in the biotech space, but you can't look at biotech and think that, this is a broken chart. It's an uptrending chart. And that's the important distinction here. One day definitely does not make the trend. Again, was today perfect? No, I don't think so. Big exiting volume, a big distribution volume, took out yesterday's lows on a gap down. Is that pretty? No, it's not pretty. But before we kind of start running and jumping to conclusions, let's slow ourselves down a little bit. S&P 500, a little bit weaker even at the close. absolutely no bounce. You kind of coming back into the top of the space. We'll see how this one plays out over the coming sessions right into the 20 simple moving average. Again, you leave a little bit of a gap down. You leave another little bit of a gap down. You know, what happens in the overnight session? I don't know, right? No crystal ball for me. Again, Bitcoin, Ethereum, really nice. Gold, silver, fairly nice. Agriculture names, you know, pretty good. I mean, but again, does that scream risk on? But those are the names, right? Those are the names that are working. Healthcare, diagnostics, right? Like even your Eli Lilly had a really nice day yesterday. But if you bought this, you're having no fun today. And this is exactly why I was trying to buy mine off the 50. Now, I bought mine, Lilly, last Friday, and I couldn't hold it into the close, just not enough strength. And then I didn't buy the UNR on Monday. And, you know, again, if you bought it yesterday as the quote-unquote breakout and it was looking pretty good, you just gave most of that back. So that's just why you got it. And I've been saying it. If you're bullish, you want to buy pullbacks into ascending moving averages. Well, your 50-day was ascending, and this was a higher low at your 50. Now, look, being early, that's just part of the, you know, that's just what it is, right? I tried it last Friday. It did not stick. And then today, or excuse me, on Monday was the much better day to go get it. But I digress. That's just the environment. If you want to buy names, you buy them on ascending moving averages. That's been the environment. If you want to short names, you short names at your falling and declining moving averages. That has been a hell of a lot easier way to get involved. What happens tomorrow? I don't know. I don't necessarily love the action in the Qs. At the moment, I don't love the action really, even in your mags just yet. It's like, okay, this can actually get going tomorrow if we take out a prior day high. We'll see what happens here. Again, you're just kind of building out a potential double bottom. This is just a pullback on really no distribution volume. So let's just kind of stay hopeful. Qs are right at that follow-through day low. You don't really want to see that rolling over in a super big way, but we'll see what ends up happening. It's energy stocks, it's gold, it's silver, it's cryptos. Very surprising, and I wish I had something better. Yes, light I thought was pretty good today for the photonics, right? You're not falling apart. You're still above a flattening 50-day, so that was really good. Anybody who got involved against the 50-day for light, pat yourself on the back. That ended up working out pretty well. But again, it's biotechs that are leading still this environment. It's genomics. And we'll see what ends up happening. Again, a little stretched here. Am I buying anything more than 4 times its ATR from the 50? No, absolutely not. So I got to make sure that I'm being a little bit more patient. Good groups in the market today. Apologize for the dogs. Good groups in the market today. DRAM, WGMI, USO, SLV, GDX, BLOK, junior miners with GDXJ, and COPX. Speaking of, I don't like copper, but I can't ignore this base. It's pretty damn phenomenal. And FCX, pretty awesome. Looking like this thing wants to break out. And it's crazy because copper is as crowded as, you know, as it's ever been. Your agricultural business, MOO, your agricultural ETF, MOO, is also performing really, really well. And then on the backside, you know, we talked about the biotechs selling off some today. The airlines continue to act pretty poor. Your FFTY, which is your Innovators IBD ETF, continues to act pretty poor. So look, we'll see what ends up happening here. I try to never keep some real strong opinions. It's XLB, if I'm not mistaken, that's got this pretty big base for materials. This looks like it potentially could lead. And I wouldn't be too surprised by that. And then I guess, if you're looking at the XLB, let's look through a couple names together here really quickly. Yeah, no surprise. Lin is your biggest within that group, potentially trying to bounce off the 200 simple moving average. NEM's your second biggest in a straight up line. Freeport McMoran FCX is your next biggest, and then you kind of just go through your other names like Nucor is in there, and Steel got absolutely its ass handed to it yesterday. So again, trying to find the silver lining. I don't necessarily see this as the market where we have to pile ourselves into tech. I think it's good to eyeball the names which are acting best, like a MRVL, even in NVIDIA still above the 50 on the semi side, Micron hanging out above the 50 on the memory side, LITE finding some support on the photonic side. If those themes are to come back, those are the names that I think we can go to. Otherwise, we have to be a little bit patient for gold names to tighten. We have to be a little bit patient for some energy names to tighten back up. If you own some crypto and the market forced your hand into some Ethereum, ETHA or ETHU, very, very nice. Obviously, back-to-back pretty damn awesome days here for an ETHA, and looking like it possibly wants to go higher. Like I said, I own some IBIT. It's the only one that's like liquid enough really for me to play. I was looking at BitX, but just not enough liquidity. And so far so good. Room up to the declining 200-day, and then at that point maybe peel a little piece. And then if it can establish itself above the 200, I'll at least have a nice lower anchored cost basis in those 30s, and we'll just kind of see how it goes from here. Again, it's a choppy market. Just when you think, oh boy, it's a follow-through day, the market is now back below the 50 simple moving average, and you start to take out today's lows, and does that spell some kind of trouble for the market where semiconductors roll over some more and memory name stocks give way? I don't know, but we'll find out. Again, I try to never really keep strong opinions. You have to just react to what is happening in real time. I have some Amazon, but it has to hold on to the 20 simple moving average or it is gone. And I have some IBIT. There are stocks out there, again, in the software side, which are looking incredibly strong. Look no further than Palantir. But if the market loses today's lows, does Palantir come under pressure on the software side? And even a Rubrik. The problem with Rubrik is it's in the semiconductor group. So just when you think, man, this thing's holding up really well, all of a sudden, if Crowd and PanW continue lower, what do you think they're going to do to Rubrik? I mean, realistically, it probably couldn't get too bad. I don't ever know for sure. But, maybe a back test into these prior highs as the 20-day catches up into $90. A total possibility. I think you kind of have to be prepared for everything, both sides of the market. It is definitely a trading environment. Both sides are working, and they're working well. And then we'll just kind of see where, the cards fall in a couple of days, a couple of weeks. I'm still trying to get myself positioned into themes that are working. Some themes are look, I didn't buy the breakout in VLO, right? I didn't buy this breakout. Really, really nice push. I don't ever really care for buying energy names on breakouts. I've never had any success doing that. Buying pullbacks on energy names, buying pullbacks on anything commodity related has always been a hell of a lot easier than buying breakouts. But that's what the market was giving us. So you've also got some potential names that have been back testing a little bit. A name like Cheesecake Factory, right? You got 10 plus exits ATR from the 50. It pulled back into the 20-day. You're now 5 times its ATR from the 50. Can this build out a little bit before possibly continuing higher? We'll see how that one goes. Keep your eyes on those names as well. And then names that have had really, really good earnings reactions. If I'm not mistaken, I'm going to just say raw stores. All right. I mean, again, I'm not looking to buy raw stores, but it is what it is. Big gap up on earnings. Fantastic. Earnings beat earnings once again. I mean, how can you complain? And now you've got a really nice gap up. So we probably just let it gap up. Give us a high volume close if it's going to give one. And then we've got a level to work with going forward into next week. And yeah, we'll just take it from there, guys. Just when you think, an FSLY starting to come back, this is what they're doing. Just when you think, oh, Nebius is right back, this is what it's like, I bought it here, I got a little trim off in here, and then all of a sudden you're getting kicked out. So this is your environment, right? It's like if you're trading some growth, it's straight up and then it's giving it all right back. And you got to be a little bit faster, and there's money going to other places. Again, I look at that materials group and I think to myself, is this thing going to break out and lead? If that's the case, you got to keep an open mind for other stocks. That's just the reality. And when you see a base like this, this can resolve higher for months. So keep that in mind before you just start, kind of digging yourself and digging your feet into growth names that are, just building lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, and ultimately going lower. That is not the scenario that you want to find yourself in. So hopefully you guys all traded well today. Please keep yourselves out of harm's way. If you can't gain traction with small size, you have not earned the right to size up or get more money into the market. You have to use progressive exposure. It's the one thing that's really going to keep you out of harm's way, especially if you're trading growth names in this environment. Markets shifted to value, the XLR ETF is sticking around. It's not your XLK right now. As much as we want it to be, this just isn't perfect, and it looks a little bit like, well, it should look a little like your QQQ. It's obviously, this is a tech heavy group. You start to lose the 50-day, who the hell knows? Who the hell knows if you start to roll back over again, and then you're below the 50-day, and then you're going to retrace back into a falling 50-day, and then it just becomes a real pain in the ass for weeks and months to come. So again, trying to stay open-minded, but I do not want to argue with price, and I do not want to argue with this market. So hopefully you guys are trading well, keeping yourselves out of harm's way, and we will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. Cheers.